Welcome back to the Boys in Motion podcast. I'm Andrew, joined by Tyler and Brian, and today we're diving into a topic that has literally been heating up, training in that summer heat. So whether you're prepping for a fall marathon or just trying to survive those long workouts, the heat hits hard, and we've all been feeling it, that's for sure.
This comes at a perfect time with these days that are in the 40s with humidex. And this episode is for anyone who's finished a run looking like they just jumped in a pool, like me this weekend. Wondering why everything's so much harder, breaking down how heat affects your body, how to hydrate the right way, and smart ways to adjust your training so you can keep making those gains without completely melting away.
Yeah, this episode could not come at a better time. Honestly, with this heat wave we're in right now, every run feels like a survival mission. Just this morning, I did a zone 2 run and I came in the door soaking wet. The rascal touched me once and just friggin' like scared cat jumped away from me because my shirt was just drenched. So the one thing about all of this heat is it's tough and it makes everything more difficult. But dealing with the heat is a skill when it comes to working out. So today we're sharing the lessons that we've learned, some of the hacks that we use and employ to get through all of this heat training, and then also a few mistakes that we've made along the way. This should help you train smarter when the sun's out for revenge.
Now let's talk a little bit about how that heat actually impacts our bodies during our endurance training. And I know for me, the big indication that it's getting hot is I have to hide my heart rate screen and remove heart rate as a piece of data on my watch because it just starts to spook me. What used to feel easy, I look at that used to be a nice low BPM, is no longer a low BPM and it's just skyrocketing as that heat and humidity comes in the summer. What are your guys' big tells that the heat is coming, and like what different things does your body do?
Yeah, that is true. One is definitely heart rate, like you mentioned, but the other one for me would be just pace, just goes out the door as well. I don't know what I hate more seeing is that heart rate spike or the pace just drop. But obviously the heat, everything that comes with it makes just everything that much harder. You know, going up hills, I find just spikes your heart rate, lowers that pace obviously even more, and then you just can't normalize back down. You just keep that pace low, your body's tired, your muscles are tired, and you just can't get over it.
And right now, like we're spread across Ontario, but all three of us where we live is in a heat wave, and it's definitely impacting us. But no, like a heat wave is something that's like very severe temperature wise, but even a mild boost in heat will make the same pace feel harder. So when it's hot out, you're going to feel more fatigue during each workout. Like you say, Andrew, that the indications that you guys kind of pinned are like, so it's going to feel harder, your heart rate's going to be higher for the same pace, or your pace is just going to drop based on what you're trying to train for. So like I know this morning I had a recovery run. My pace was about 15 seconds slower than normal, but that's completely normal because I was trying to hit that recovery heart rate target. So you definitely need to make some adjustments. Now, I guess the one question that I have for you guys is like, why does the heat impact your body during endurance training so much?
I think one of the main reasons is the blood is just redirected somewhere else. It's just trying to cool your skin and getting away from your muscles and your main arteries that are trying to just cool you down.
Yeah, that makes sense. I was listening to a podcast by Peter Attia, and he was interviewing the main research slash trainer for two of the top triathletes. I think it was Gustav and Christensen, or Blumenfeld, sorry. And what they were saying was basically your body has a limit in heat. And once you reach that limit in heat, it's not going to keep expanding and putting out more and more energy, you're going to cap off because your body needs to maintain that heat limit. So once you reach that threshold, you can't really go harder. And that's one of I feel like you hit it right on the head there.
Yeah, and actually, I listened to an interview. I don't know if it's the same one, but they were actually saying how they are, I guess the Norwegians, they try a lot of different methods throughout the years. And this past summer, so I guess in 2024, they were really looking at core body temperature. So not just heart rate at the surface, it's really core body temperature. And that is really an indicator on how your heat acclimatized and how the heat affects your training status, I guess. And they were finding really freaky ways to figure that out.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly it. Is your core body temperature has an upper threshold, and the mechanical like output that you're doing creates heat in your body, and your body's already dealing with the hot temperatures outside. So it's a 1-2 punch while you're exercising. That's what makes it feel so hard. So that makes sense. But there's of course like tactics that we use to get away from it. I think the number one thing, and the reason I want to bring this up, is because all of last week I was dealing with a headache, and now I learned that it's because I was dehydrated. And I think that's one of the number one tips that if I had to talk to everybody who's listening, it's make sure you're on with your hydration, especially when it starts to get warmer.
100%. You got to double down on that. Brian, you're gonna hate to hear this, but in the warmer months, we still go with our DIY margaritas, but every day actually I make it a point to take at least one or two electrolyte pills throughout the day. So not just the custom mix, but I find just taking a pill sometimes very easy to do as well. If you don't have that mix or salt handy, or you don't want to put it in a drink, just pop a pill and you're good to go. Even if you're not doing exercise, I think in the summer months, it's very beneficial to just keep those electrolytes up.
Even just a couple sprinkles of salt in your water, just plain table salt, will do the trick too. Just a little bit. It's not something you'll even necessarily taste, just even at the baseline. And then, yeah, I know in the summer, the amount of electrolytes that I'm taking in with just the amount of sweating I'm doing, especially like I'm a pretty sweater and a very salty sweater. So kind of what you'll need for electrolytes will depend on how much you're sweating, how much salt is in that sweat. But in the summer, everyone's going to be sweating quite a bit. So
Yes, and I think this is what I forgot was just how much you need to focus on hydration and electrolytes, because it's not only drinking more water, you need to be supplementing with electrolytes as well. Because if you're only hydrating with water, zero electrolytes, you risk essentially diluting down your body, and it puts you at risk of hyponatremia, which is the technical term, which basically means like there's not enough salt and electrolytes in your body, and you're just diluting it constantly if you're only sipping on water. So I think like basically throughout the day I'm drinking, but half of those are electrolyte drinks. And my food, like you said, Andy, is tasting a little bit better because there's a little bit of extra flaky salt sprinkled on top of every meal.
I mean, again, not scientists, not nutritionists, so, do your research, but I think just putting that little bit of extra salt on your food and just kind of everything in the summer, especially with all of that training, is something you shouldn't shy away from, because I know I've had those where long training weeks and you're not, before I kind of realized my electrolyte needs, I was just like feeling completely dead, completely tired, and just like I would feel drained. And I was always wondering what was going on. And then once I started getting on that pool water, it all changed.
Yeah, I think we all get that realization a week or two into the heat. You realize too, you have to prepare for it for your workouts, right? So either preloading beforehand, and even let's call it with the recovery aspect of it after your workouts, you're also fueling aggressively, just getting ready for either that next workout, or obviously to crush the rest of your day, because you don't want to just lay on the couch like a potato for the whole day just dehydrated. So really checking what you're doing. Let's say you have a big weekend. Everybody has big training weekends coming up these days. So loading up on Friday, even that Saturday morning, get ready for your big workout. And then afterwards, because you're going to be dehydrated and you're trying to load back up for the next day.
That's exactly it. And like if you hydration's one of those things that if you get behind, you stay behind. It's really tough to catch up on hydration, whether it's in a workout or across multiple days where you're doing a ton of exercise. And that was the problem. Is like basically got into what I would call like a multi-day sodium bonk, where I was just so dehydrated from two or three actually big intense sessions, and I didn't hydrate enough during them. And then for the next 3 or 4 days, I felt that. And that's what you want to avoid because it takes it out of you. You can't perform at your best. You're not building fitness. Your body's in a state of recovery. So, like you say, preload for those hot workouts and rehydrate aggressively afterwards. The other thing, just to like point out, is like salt is one of those, but there's a little bit more than just salt. It's you also want potassium and magnesium in your diet. Those are kind of the three key. And in my DIY anti-bonk pool water mix, it's a little bit of each of those. It's about 50% sodium just in table salt, and then some supplements that also have potassium and magnesium, and a scoop of that a day keeps the hydration.
Yeah, and we talk about that quite a bit. That pool water, we use that word quite a bit. And for those that are interested in that, I think this is probably as good opportunity as any to just highlight if you are interested in doing something like that. There's a brand called LMNT. We're not sponsored, but if you search
Not yet.
LMNT,
Not yet.
LMNT DIY, they actually give their own recipe so that you can follow it, make it at home for pennies compared to what it actually costs. So that's a kind of a great starting point. And then you can kind of adjust how many milligrams of sodium and the other electrolytes you want. But that's a great cost-effective way to get those electrolytes in.
Yeah. And if you're not into the DIY, like go out, do some research, try some different hydration products. There's a lot in the market today. Like it's not just like Gatorade or water that you have the options of. There's a lot of like sophisticated researchers that are building companies that may put out good hydration products. So find one you like, find one that's on sale, because the worst thing is just ignoring it altogether. It will affect your performance. I think
Now,
that covers hydration. Do you guys
yeah,
agree?
Yeah, I was gonna
because
say just one more thing. Like everybody's individual, right? So obviously, someone can intake 1,500 milligrams an hour. Maybe not for everybody. Some people will probably have a really bad GI if they try that for the first time. But start slow and know your body, know how much you sweat.
Is there any like way that you guys know of like figuring out if you're a salty sweater or not? Because I know like heavy sweaters like could see like salt in the back of their ears, and then like boom, if you're like having a lot of salt accumulate. I've seen it happen to you, Andrew. I've seen it happen to Mike. Like there's visible salt while you're in a long session that's on your body.
yeah, I know that definitely would be something that I'm interested in because I know I am a super salty sweater just based on if I wear a white shirt or a black shirt, it's covered in salt by the end. So there's no hiding it, where that's normally the strategy with the black shirt is to hide the sweat. But Tyler, you had mentioned something that you were kind of looking into.
Yeah, there's sweat calculators online, so they you kind of enter the conditions and how you think you sweat, and it kind of would tell you your perceived sweat rate. There's also a way to do it at home with like it's a lot easier to do on a trainer, let's say, or in a controlled environment where you weigh yourself. I don't know too much of the specifics, but you weigh yourself before you intake X amount of water, and there's a calculation you make, and then you weigh yourself after, and you see how much sweat you've lost comparatively. But then also there's just sweat labs where you do a workout through them, and they calculate your sweat rate. And I think that would be pretty beneficial because that's info that everybody could use. It's personalized to you, obviously, and that way, knowing how much you sweat, you know how much sodium or electrolytes to replenish during workouts.
Yeah, that's awesome. So those are good options. I think, especially if you want those like very marginal gains, go to the lab. You have those options at the upper end of the scale. But again, if you're out exercising in the summer heat, be loading that sodium, loading those electrolytes. You can go overboard, so be cautious. Listen to your body, talk to a medical professional if you need. But like the products that you're buying, like off, like at a grocery store will generally be all right. You're not gonna yeet yourself because of it. So yeah, that I think covers for hydration, electrolytes, and fueling a little bit. I think the only thing on fueling is like as the heat climbs, your body's just working tougher, so you might suffer from a little bit more GI even when you're like actually loading food or gels, just because overall your body's working harder, so your digestive tract is also suffering a little bit.
You're working overtime. Yeah, I think the next I guess segment we could call it is how to adjust your training, time and how to adjust intensity based on the heat. So what are some great ways to do that?
Well, I can speak to the one that I've been trialing, which is running early. And Andy, I think you're on the other side of the spectrum, which is running late. So, really avoiding those peak hours where the UV is the highest, really that like I would say now it's like 9 a.m. right now, but like call it 11 to 4 or like 10 to 5 p.m. is brutal. If you don't need to run at that time, don't run at that time. Adjust your schedule so that you can run when it's a little colder, when the sun is down. Also, if it's supposed to be a little windy or even a tiny bit of rain, those things can help you avoid the like peak heat in the summer, and it's very worthwhile. I'm actually adjusting my whole sleep schedule just to be able to do some more morning running, and it's been nice.
Yeah, 100%. Double down on that. I'm gonna start doing some. Well, the commute ride in super early in the morning. And then the afternoon is obviously after 4 p.m. but still warm, but better than noon. Another thing I like doing is running in trails. So I try to scope out a trail, nice tree coverage, usually a little bit more shade in there, and also soft on the feet. So it's a nice way to dodge a little bit of that heat. And the big thing I've been doing actually, and I did it this past weekend a couple times, was during the trail run, nice little river along the side. Dip the hat in the river. You just stay cool. It's a one up from a splash pad. So you just stay cool with that little river dip and without going overboard.
I kind of mentioned one earlier, and that's me hiding that heart rate on my watch in the summer. And I think this is really goes to if you've been training consistently, training for a little while, or at least done one training cycle, it's time to ditch those target paces. Not completely, but ditch those target paces, ditch the heart rate, and really focus in on RPE. You know what your easy, medium, hard efforts feel like. Just go with that and don't focus too much on the data in the moment. Afterwards, you can look at it and kind of see where you're at, but don't focus too much on that, because I think that can kind of get you down in the moment and kind of feeling bad about your performance when you're dealing with this extreme condition.
Yeah, I think that's very true. I see in myself my heart rate ranges from like 10 to 25 beats higher for the same pace, and certainly runs 10 beats higher for the same RPE. So definitely, I'm a big data nerd. I know both of you are as well, but it's not, sometimes it could be to your detriment. You're out there running in the heat. It's going to be harder. So just running on RPE, as long as you have some understanding, is definitely worthwhile. But you can also run yourself into the ground. So if you're somebody who's on the edge of like being able to run constantly, for example, slowing down or moving back to walk runs might be the only way that you can actually go out and have a good workout where you don't totally blow up. So explore those options as well. Put the ego aside. I think is the one thing with the heat is, yeah, you're battling a lot more than usual.
Yeah, that's true. Putting the ego aside, just easy as like, if I'm doing 30 minutes out, 30 minutes back, on my 30 minutes out, just take a breather at the end of it, a minute or two, just lower that heart rate at least a good 10, 20 beats, and then make your way back. You're not in a race, nobody's counting. So, and you also don't want to die. So just take it nice and easy.
That's nice. I thought you said no booty, like you sweat your ass off or
No,
something.
no
No,
booties watching.
nobody's watching, babe.
But this is true. I actually do, like when it's really crazy hot, take a few more breaks or even stop in at a convenience store, get some cold drink, cold snack, now's the time to enjoy a little bit of a freezy or something during a run. You can't do that in the middle of winter. It doesn't hit the same. So take advantage of those. Frozen water bottles, also nice. If you have the option, like you said, to dip something in water, do it. What are your guys' opinions on like shirt on versus shirt off?
Shirt off, or as minimal as you can have. Shirt off. It's just extra laundry. In my opinion, it's going to be
That's true.
soaked. I know, like, I'm a person that I just go out no shirt because I know it's going to get soaked, and I prefer not to have a shirt. If I have a shirt on at the beginning, I'm not going to take it off. But
That's interesting.
Fair.
I'm a half and half. I literally go out with a shirt. Depends where I am. I'll take the shirt off and actually put it under my hat and be like a desert man and just have that shirt on the back of the shoulders. And this, I don't know if this is a hot take, but I just did it this weekend and I did it the whole 10 days I was in Brazil. So you let the shirt get soaked, all right? You take it off, you put it as a hat to cover your shoulders so you don't get a sunburn. And the slight wind you do get, because you're running so fast, of course, cools you down because it cools the wet shirt and your shoulders stay cold.
That's very nice. I might need to do that. I've only gone out with a shirt so far this year, but this morning, getting in from like what was supposed to be a recovery run, I felt like 3 pounds heavier because my shirt was so soaked. So I might explore that. And the other thing is it just stinks up the house as well because everything's like gross, sweaty, and soaked. So I think this is the play. Now that I hear that the two of you are shirts off, then my tarp might be coming off too.
It is true. Saves laundry. Andy's way, but not mine.
Now, the only thing that I will say is running in forests and trails where there's bugs still a little bit at this time of year. Oh, I can't do that with the tarp off. Even though you get arguably sweatier under the canopy because there's a little bit more humidity, I find, it's just not nice if there's bugs out.
Oh yeah, the arms full black, full of flies. It was nice.
yeah, I don't need to deal with that too often. But Brian, you mentioned before that I swing the other way as far as I like to run later at night, and I always find that if you run early, it's cooler, but there's more humidity. Where I find at night, less humidity, but it's like the heat of the day is still hotter. So I guess, do you guys both prefer the like higher humidity, lower heat? With both of you guys preferring those early morning runs?
It's a good question. I don't really know the answer of what I prefer. Right now, it's also like after work, now I have the evening, or I can do a double workout as well. So I can like run in the morning, bike in the evening. That's nice to be able to do. I do really appreciate like the after sun goes down, which at this time of the year is like 9:30, 9:45. Going out is nice. But if I'm trying to adjust my sleep schedule the other way, it's tough to do both. But I do appreciate a late night run. I would say it's probably more comfy because the humidity does slap, where it feels like a swamp in the morning still.
I just like the morning vibes. Once I actually do get up, that going out before going to work, I find I'm actually a lot more productive at work. So it's a lot for me, just productivity.
So I there's one other thing that I want to talk about here, which is like tools to help you stay cool. And the one that I want to touch on is the sweatband that people have. I don't know if you've seen those. I think it's big in the triathlon gangs, which is like it basically acts as like a heat sink on your forehead on a band that you're supposed to squirt with water. Have either of you guys ever seen one?
The
Oh yeah.
honeycomb.
I think about a year ago, I was trying to convince Tyler to buy one
Frig, you
off of
almost
Heat.
did. You almost did because I'm still thinking about it. I see a lot of people, yeah, wear it, and I guess actually maybe it's the same kind of tech as my shirt off kind of thing. It's basically, it's the wind going through that apparatus and cools your head down. So I mean, it's a great idea. It just costs way too much money off of those name brands, but I don't know. I'm in for it.
Oh my god.
Oh yeah.
Sorry, I just saw that it's $280 on the feed. The
Oh yeah.
onus.
And then you have to buy the little pods, the replaceable pods. You can buy them for like $100 each.
Oh,
It's
you need to
crazy.
swap the pods?
Yeah. You gotta swap them out.
That's so nice.
They get too
Tri-
sweaty, poubelle.
Triathletes, I tell you, they
I'm telling you.
love their friggin' toys.
Triathlon is just another name for light your money on fire. That's
It's
crazy.
money
I thought
laundering.
maybe that was like $70 a one-time purchase plus like just spray it with water, but that's absolutely nuts.
Oh yeah, no. If it was 70, I would have five of them.
I saw somebody at the Rose City Tri running with him, and I mean, he looked pretty cool.
Was he fast though?
Well, he was cold and he was cool on a real hot day, which I mean that makes you fast, right?
100%. But I mean, for 280, I don't know. I mean, I could dip my hat in ice for the same for a quarter of the price. So
Fair enough. But for 280, you also lost some weight in your wallet, so you'd be blasting up the hills a little faster with
very
reduction strategy.
that is very true.
Okay, so I guess maybe we'll have a gear review if Tyler ever wins the lottery.
Ooh, or Ali.
That's true. There might be some factory that's making a bootleg one, and hook me up with that.
I'm in. I'm gonna research after this. We'll see. We might do some product reviews.
Very nice. So before we started recording this episode, we were talking a little bit about some of like the heat acclimation strategies and like heat training as an actual tactic to get you faster in the long run. And this is something I'm biker boy Brian. I know that this is something that is circulating a lot right now on all the forums, on the YouTube channels for all the top cyclist influencers, which is having these like dedicated mini blocks, we'll call them, towards heat training. So, what are your guys' thoughts on it? How do you do it? What are the benefits?
I'm in for it. I mean, the whole Ottawa community is embracing it because we have a race dead of summer, August 3rd, for the Ironman. So actually, a lot of us are going out, at the hottest times of the day, or making an effort actually instead of avoiding the heat, going into the heat, obviously safely. Like this past weekend, I tried to go out at the hottest time of the day for both days, just practicing my nutrition, my hydration. But yeah, heat acclimation, big part of training, I think, and optimizing basically your race conditions, right? So I know for cyclists, maybe just trying to be optimal in general with the body, but for triathletes, I would say more trying to acclimatize to your race conditions, and it's going to be real hot. So better get ready for it.
I'm definitely someone that, as much as I don't like training in the heat, it is a great tool. And I mentioned lots of content, David Roche, about carb intake. He's also very into heat training, and actually recently released a video about heat training where he did a 20-mile long run. And in that, he had a full, like, reflective heat suit, a puffer jacket, a toque on, and he lives I think in Boulder. And then he was monitoring, speaking of another expensive endurance gadget, the Core 2 sensor, where he was constantly checking kind of where he was and like the heat stimulus. So it's definitely a really good tool. My normal go-to strategy, that is kind of like crazy extreme. Normally I try to do at least one long run in the peak of the day on a hot week. That is normally what I try to do, at least one where it's like a very hot run.
One a week or one per training block?
No, one a block.
Oh, for frig. I'm doing this once a week these days. I guess we'll have no choice.
I mean, maybe our long runs are a little different, but you also have
True.
you also have all day, so you can't avoid it.
Yeah,
I'm not
true.
training for an event where I'm going to be in the heat. So you need to do it
True.
to survive.
That is true. Well, what do they say? You're the sweat. I'm gonna butcher it, but the sweat, it makes the PRs in the fall. What is it?
Something like that. You're close enough, I think. Sweat makes the PRs. That's what I'm going to tell myself on the next training session.
No, you someone put it here. Oh, cold weather PRs are built in sweat. That's what you had.
But it is true. Like
Yeah,
there is something
100%.
in the summer of like reframe the heat as a challenge and as like an actual training tool that's going to boost your performance in cold weather racing, because the work that you're doing now in the heat, having consistent exposure to adapt to the heat, it does make you faster. If you're interested, especially for the cyclists, look up Dylan Johnson. He publishes a ton of videos and all of them are science based. And they show incremental gains of people who take kind of a 10 to 14 days of constant heat exposure while training, and they see a boost in their numbers, whether it's at FTP or VO2 max, they see boosts in that. So the work that you're doing now in the heat will set you up to crush a cold weather race in the fall. So I think for anybody who's in a block right now, you should be happy that it is hot, and use that as another key piece of strength of your training block.
Exactly. I'm fired up to see you guys with that key summer block going into a fall race. I'm doing a summer block going into a summer race, so it's kind of a little bit different. So I'm very excited to see those PRs at those cold weather races.
And I think one other, before we kind of move on to chat time, I think one of the benefits, and we talked about that, was like core temp. So because when you're training in the heat, your body is at that upper limit of core temperature. When it's cooler outside, your body's going to be better at managing your core temperature and keeping it lower, which allows you to go further, go harder, go faster, no matter what sport you're participating in. So I think that that is one of like the key like examples of like this specific biomechanic piece of your performance, which is core temperature regulation. You are adapting it to the heat, which will make you go faster when it gets cooler.
Yeah, that's definitely a big benefit. And then another thing, just to touch on what you said, the 7 to 14 days, those mini blocks to try to acclimatize to the heat. I found that very apparent when I visited Brazil in the middle of winter. Right, I was getting ready in the winter, and then I did 7 to 10 days of running in Brazil. So I started my trip. Everybody warned me, do not run in the middle of the day. So I started it, slowly with 5Ks in the mornings. I would go, when the sun was a bit lower, everything was cooler, and then like with the days, I would check my heart rate and then go at later times in the day. So slowly increasing the heat and trying to keep that heart rate effort low. And then my pace started becoming the same as, the day one or day two at a cooler temperature. So it was really cool to see. And by the last day, I was running at noon, 10 to 12K, but then I had to leave. So it was kind of a cool little experiment, but very beneficial, I think, for that heat training.
And I think you sort of mentioned this, but it wasn't explicit, is start slow when you start going out into the heat. Don't go and run your hard session as your first session at the like midday when it's hottest. Start slow with some zone 2 work, build some intensity, build some distance, build some heat so that you're adapting to it even during that exposure block. Don't go out because now it's a heat wave and say like now it's time to do my 22K marathon pace workout as my first workout now that there's a heat wave. Ease into it so that you don't kind of overdo it from day one and dehydrate yourself and screw yourself over really.
100%. Then you get scared of it all too, and you snowball.
This is almost equivalent to if you're starting a marathon block, you shouldn't on your first long run just go out and say I'm going to run a marathon. It's almost just as silly. So yeah, make sure that you rein it in just a little bit because there's lots of or at least a few good hot months that you can really get those gains from that heat.
Yeah, totally agree. So, take for you guys this week, and we talked about it, but my take is that Gatorade, when you're talking hydration, is overrated in today's kind of market of hydration. Homemade electrolyte mix, in my opinion, is far superior. In the way of cost, your cost is very very low when you're making it yourself. Table salt and a few other supplements, you're ready to go. A little bit of lime juice, you got the flavor. You can make it any flavor you want. Third point, you're not putting out garbage all the time. I see you, Tyler, your recycling box is just filled with plastic bottles. And I think the last thing is you have flexibility with how much sugar you want in it. So if you want a recovery mix that has some carb, you can do that. If you're just trying to hydrate and preload and you don't want any carb, you can do that. You have all the flexibility in the world. And an anti-bonk margarita, tastes really good as well. So that's my take of the week.
I half disagree. I'm in the disagree train.
Why?
I gotta disagree. For me, it's convenience. The Gatorade, the bottle's there, you're ready to go. Convenient, you know what you get. But that's the thing. I'm saying I have to disagree because there's not enough carb for what we're doing, let's say. So I will,
There's also not enough sodium.
and not enough sodium. Yeah, exactly. And I've seen Calvin do it. I do it as well now, but I do like the flavor of the Gatorade. So I do Gatorade, but I increase the salt and I increase the sugar. So I'm kind of on that fence, and I don't know. There's just something about plastic bottles. I just love to have one with me and then just throw it in the recycling. But I just love that consumer bottle. I just love the plastic bottle, and I love the Gatorade.
So it's not even like Gatorade powder. Because I think Gatorade powder is good, and then you add more sodium. But you're saying you really need to buy the 24 pack at Costco
That
every 2 weeks.
that's what I have on. That's what
Okay.
I have in my closet right now. But I add Gatorade powder to the Gatorade.
That's Gatorade squared right there, baby.
Oh yeah, I
What?
you could ask me for my favorite color combination. I got it down pat right now. It's really nice.
I was on your side until you said you like the bottled Gatorade, because I think, and listeners know that I'm on the cane sugar sodium citrate gang. That's what I rock all the time, and I'm fine with just sweetness, just simple syrup. But I think what you really need to be hating on is all of these like fancy carb and electrolyte mixes that are super overpriced sugar. I think for your dollars, if you want convenience, Gatorade powder, not bottles, because we like the earth here at BIM. Gatorade powder in bulk, dollar for dollar, is a very cost effective option if you're going for convenience. Or just a little sprinkle in a homemade mix for like a little bit of flavor is also a good use of that powder.
That I 100% agree with.
Hundred
For
percent.
me, it was the like case like I know
I
for a
have a
fact
case
that
downstairs.
Tyler has a case in his house. I haven't been over to his house in like 8 months, but I know for a fact he's got those bougie bottles down in the basement.
You just know I got those bottles on tap. But the
Tyler,
worst thing
you
is I don't put them in the fridge.
you need to go on Uline and order the like three minimum of the mega bags of Gatorade powder, and it will be so cost effective. You'll be carved up, get a big bag of sodium citrate on one web, go to like a natural food store or something, you're good to go.
But that's not convenient. You got to actually mix it with the Gatorade bottle. You just grab the bottle, you go. Grab the bottle, you go.
Listen here, you freak. It's not grab the bottle and go because you're still adding extra stuff to your darn bottle every time. I don't know.
But it's already almost there. You know, you already got something. And I like the flavor mix up. I got four flavors. Okay, I got basically six or no unlimited flavors. I'm telling you, it's unlimited
16. Yeah.
Okay,
because you got.
PSA, they make different flavors of powder as well.
Oh no, you go four flavors of Gatorade, and I have three flavors of powder. So you mix the powders with the bottles, and you have unlimited flavors.
Mixologist. And you know what? You're right. It's very convenient, Tyler. So I think you've convinced me. You've definitely convinced Andrew. He's gonna take his bike, go down to the local Costco warehouse, and grab a few 2 4s of Gatorades.
That's what I like to hear.
I don't have any hate about having like an emergency Gatorade for, whatever, if you're like wanting something to sip on and after a run or something, if you want that convenient option, yeah, there you go. I mean, those
Five
were
seconds.
those
Yeah.
were
See,
graciously donated by Mischievous's dad for the BIM events, and those we love. But
you're
when you need,
undercover Gatorade bottle lover. I know it.
I got a few
but
stashed away in case you visit.
because we know you won't have that powder. You need that bottle.
But I agree. I think, like you say, Andrew, having the convenient bottles, worth it. But the amount that we're exercising, I mean, there's people in this world that could just throw money at problems. But, like, I'd be spending $100 on hydration a month if I wasn't getting, like, bulk powders, let's say.
Well, speaking about bulk powders, what about that Morton powder? I use one of those per long workout. They're really nice.
You, your workouts cost more than driving in a car with the gasoline,
100%.
just fueled,
And I
baby.
Here,
like it.
here, here's what we need to do. I think we need to do a DIY Morton in one bottle, a Morton in the other bottle, and I want to see if you can tell the difference between the two.
110% I will be able to. And the
I don't think
problem,
so.
the problem with that though is over. We have to do an experiment over 12 hours. Does it give you GI or not?
I guess I'm not doing 12 hours, but I pack in lots of these carbs, and I don't get GI on the run. But I guess I've got to run longer. That's the issue. I'm not
No,
running long
you
enough.
got to do an ultra with it. I mean, you
It sounds like there's a lot more in the pipeline for content. I think we need to do a few of these DIY mixes, like I did the anti-bonk margarita. We got to do a few of these mixes.
yeah,
But
good idea.
I do want to move the conversation along before we end the episode to just some community shout outs and some strategy talk about something potentially in the pipeline for 2026. So, first highlight, community was active at Rose City Try. Andrew and I were there. Andrew was wicked media man. He had the camera out most of the time. I was running around the race course and completing a long run, but it was cool to see some of the BIM athletes, we'll say, out there. So, who did you capture on film, Andrew?
Yeah, there's a bunch of people out. There was Kennedy, Jacob, Carly, and then I did see Jansen was there on the Sunday. I was just there on the Saturday. And I know there was some other people there. Chris Carter. I know Ali was also there. So I was trying to take as many videos and pictures as possible. And I'll say with the format of this of the Rose City Try, with it being well a one loop swim, four loop bike, and then kind of like a 2.5 loop run, the amount of stuff that's going on as you're spectating and like as you're trying to coordinate, trying to see other people, there's a lot going on. And a lot of trying to see like with the way they did the waves and like 10 minutes apart, there's a lot to pay attention to. That's something that I did not realize going into that event.
That's
Yeah,
pretty cool.
it was very cool, very chaotic, like tons of athletes around the Flatwater Center running in every direction. I felt like from the moment I got there to the moment I left, there was somebody running by, biking by, and swimming all the whole time. So very cool. People's families were out there supporting. Some really good spots to cheer on athletes where you could see kind of two or even three sports all at the same time without moving your feet. So it's a really, really good venue for it. But Tyler, this you might have a comment about. Watching triathletes in the moment, it seems like just a sufferfest and no fun. Jacob was yelling and having some hooting and hollering on the bike a little bit, but it just looked awful. Everybody. It just looks so painful.
It's torture. That's what you sign up for. You sign up for the torture. It just basically just mixes up your body. They're like, oh, you think they're swimming? Nope, I'm going on the bike. Oh, whoops. Nope, I'm running now.
Yeah, you come out of the water, literal scrambled egg, and then you're expected
Oh,
to go and
exactly.
push watts on the bike. That's fine. You're taking a nap on the bike, head down, just pedal away. And then the moment you get off the bike, you're on like two left feet falling over in your
Literally.
transition. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, I've had some freaky pictures coming out of the swim where I look discombobulated. I look like a different person. And then, like you said, same with coming off of the bike. You're like spaghetti. It's just something different. I think you guys should try it.
Well, go ahead, Andrew. You unmuted.
Before we get to that, because I know what you're about to bring up, one thing I do want to highlight that I thought was absolutely crazy, and I still don't believe it. I think something after the finish line took over their body was both Jacob and Kennedy said that their favorite part of the day was the swim, which I find is pretty crazy considering I've had Kennedy likes swimming a bit more, but I know Jacob was not a big fan and considers himself a certified sinker, and he loved the swim, which I think is insane.
That's
So,
wild. I think the main consensus in that community is that just survive the swim, can't wait to get on land, and then people rocket ship. So that's very surprising to hear.
I mean, Jacob did do his fair share of rocket shipping, He was fast on the bike. He had the arrow tuck on the hoods. He doesn't have a TT bike. Neither he or Kennedy do. But Jacob was like in a nice arrow tuck position every time he went by. Maybe he was just flexing on us and he was up on the hoods after. But he was down and dirty on the bike. It was cool to see. I think we also need to give a shout out to Carly. I know you mentioned her by name. She finished second overall. I don't know if it's true, but I think she finished first last year. I talked to her after she finished, just briefly, and a little update on her. She was feeling good on the bike, crushed it, but then on the run had some hamstring pain, and I think she kind of indicated to me that she peeled back a little bit to avoid injuring herself as she came through the run. But overall, I think it was still a successful day for her. She was, in good spirits at the finish line, which is great, and probably a promising result as she kind of recovers from this big injury that had her sidelined for a bit. Like she was not running for a long period.
Oh,
Yeah,
true. I
and
forgot about that.
sounds like she has a pretty busy race schedule too. She has, I think, is Muskoka's in 2 weeks.
Yeah,
I think
July.
she has Muskoka, and then I think she has Ohio. So she has like quite a few big races.
And then the
But I
big
think this
boy.
was more of just the first tune-up.
That's good. Well, hopefully for us, she can win one. So then we can have something to talk about on the pod when we interview her.
Very true. Muskoka again. Didn't she win? No, she won the female, right? Last year? She's defending her title.
That is winning it. What do you mean?
Well, she
So
won the
yeah, she won.
female. She didn't win the first overall in general, right? First
That is
female.
true. That is true. Yeah.
I'm being specific. That's all.
You're very specific.
I
Andrew
mean,
doesn't see gender. He lives in Toronto. He's a city
oh,
man.
true. And I mean, she would blow me out of the water any day of the week, so it doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
Yeah.
But yes, I just wanted to be specific.
Well, I honestly don't think that if the three of us competed against Carly, I think it would be a tight race. Like three of us in a relay versus Carly, it
100%.
would be a tight race.
Yeah, I think she would still get me.
So, so Andrew, I wanted to, my lips were about to start squawking about this last point in the show notes here. We had some chatter about something we are dreaming of for 2026. Want to give the people a preview?
Absolutely. Yeah, we were chatting on the sidelines as we were, having fun spectating one of these things that Tyler calls a triathlon, these crazy things. And although Brian and I, we do the other sports, we kind of have a specific sport we're very good at, and we would like to fully utilize that sport, but in this trio sport format. So that is having our eyes on doing a potential relay at the 2026 Barrelman. And yeah, Tyler, what do you think? What do you think about that idea?
I mean, that is freaky, but I hate swimming, so I would take one for the team. But I mean, and I think we could be pretty quick, so that would be really nice. But I was actually thinking of that. What was it last week? I just want to do all three. I just want to do all three, to be honest. I think we should all do all three.
I mean, here's what I might suggest. If you don't want to dedicate a full block to like swimming, because Andrew and I want to go out and we want to try to win this thing. And so we need a strong swim leg. So if you want to just race it, feel free to do so. But that means that we then need to recruit somebody to swim with us
A
on our team.
certified swimmer, not a sinker.
And it's tough to find a certified swimmer
That's
in our midst because everybody runs, it seems, and a lot of people bike, but people just swim to get by in a try, it seems.
exactly.
Except for Carly, who's doing 10K a week in the pool, but
Get her.
she's got to go and win the individual. So
Yeah, very true. I mean, yeah, I could swim. I'm just saying I'm not gonna do a dedicated swim block. So you're gonna take what you can get. I'll do a sub 2 minute. That's all I can guarantee. And then you guys just rocket ship. Could be a thing. Could be a thing. I mean, I could spend a couple more hours in the pool if you do want me to, but we'll see.
yeah, we'll see. Let's talk about it. We'll keep circling about this. The one thing that it did interest me was the duathlon, the bike run
Yeah,
from
interesting.
Rose City. So I might try the bike run as kind of a tune up or like a dip my toe in the water for the barrelman,
Going in the
especially because
water.
I might need a TT, borrowed or bought. We'll see.
That'd be nice. I mean, I'm due for an upgrade, I think. So
There we go. Well, with that in mind, I think that's a good wrap on the episode. Hopefully, we have some more chatter about some relays in the future. But Andrew and I think we have the eyes on the prize. We want to see if we can blitz it.
that would be phenomenal. I think it's a must.
Perfect. Well, that's it for today's episode. If you're out there sweating out there this summer, you're not alone. It's about pushing harder and about training smarter.
And if this episode helped you reframe your hot runs or give you a new hydration hack for your next run, share this with a friend and tag us on our socials or on your socials. We love seeing how Boys in Motion community just comes together and keeps the grind going. Keep it going.
And the weekly reminder that we are not medical professionals. And if you're unsure how the heat's affecting you and you're feeling a little bit woozy on those long runs, talk to your coach or doctor, especially if you're in the process of making big changes to that training plan.
Perfect. So do your best to stay cool, stay hydrated, and keep showing up. Train in that heat because the gains are just getting warmed up.